Retail experts predict that downtown San Francisco and the Westfield Mall recovery might be in 2024. I'm going to be fair and say that this is wishful thinking at best. Now, let's be honest. There is no way in hell this starts in 2024. No, not even close. Why is that? Let's get into it. Let's jump right on in. I'm going to tear this one apart. Here we go. Yeah, this is just some silliness. And who better to rip apart a real estate expert's opinion than a real estate guy who does a little YouTube action on the side, right? It's not all doom, loop, and gloom. If you talk to retail real estate people in San Francisco right now, retail commercial guys in San Francisco, that's a tough sell. That's a tough sell. I mean, you've got street conditions that are, that rival third world countries, that are worse than third world countries. You guys send me emails all the time about, hey, poverty doesn't create the situations you've got going on in these drug-infested cities. No, poverty doesn't do that, because I've been to a lot of countries. This is other folks emailing me. I've been to a lot of countries where that's not the case. The country might be poor, but it doesn't have crime the way that U.S. blue cities do. So, and while it's perhaps just their job to be cheerleaders, real estate guys have got to be cheerleaders, because otherwise, yeah, market sucks, don't buy anything, and then they don't eat, because it's an eat what you kill industry, right? Got to do their jobs to be cheerleaders, even sorry looking times. At least a few say that empty storefronts are just, they're opportunities for foreign and domestic brands that haven't set foot in this market before. This is an opportunity. Have I got an opportunity for you? Oh, we're going to need you to sign on the dotted line. Did you bring your checkbook? Did you bring your pen? We've got an opportunity. Now, I know you haven't ever set foot in San Francisco, but this Tenderloin neighborhood, it is the cat's meow. It has got upside potential like there is no tomorrow. No tomorrow. Plenty of space available. I mean, it's a diamond in the rough, and that's why you're getting it for such a great price. But that's why. Let's not dick around here. I need you to, let's sign this up. Let's go. Let's go. Yes, the Westfield Mall people are walking away from San Francisco's big 17-year-old downtown mall, and it'll soon be in the hands of the bank. Yes, the Nordstrom is shutting down next month and will leave a major vacancy to fill in the mall. It was a 5-story Nordstrom. And as we learned yesterday, the Century Cinema upstairs, which has long been a pretty quiet, not well-attended theater, is closed effective immediately. But beyond all that just recently happened, but that doesn't mean the mall will close. And the place is still in pretty nice shape, all told. I mean, if you ignore the human excrement that's become a real issue in the elevators, it's pretty good shape. Don't go outside though. Outside, not so much. You got some real riffraff out there. We don't recommend. No, just stay in the mall. Don't ever leave. It's all good. It's all good. We've told tenants that it's a buyer's market, said Kazuko Morgan, executive vice chairman at Cushman & Wakefield San Francisco office, speaking to the New York Times this week. Never in my career, and I've been doing this for a while, have we seen this type of quality real estate available. San Francisco is one of the top global cities and obviously has some tiny, minor challenges at the moment, but we'll get through it. Look at how New York has turned. All right. San Francisco, you are not willing to pull New York. You are not willing to have a Rudy Giuliani come in and just clean house. You are not, even recently, New York didn't let things go the way that San Fran has. It just hasn't let it go. I mean, law and order is still a thing, believe it or not, right? It's this West Coast thing, right? It's this West Coast thing. Alan McAvoy, a retail partner at local firm Maven Commercial, tells the San Francisco Business Times that retailers, especially those with prime spots at the Westfield Center, do quite well in that mall. Yes, but there's been quite an exodus. There's out of 200 something, I think it's 203, companies that have been there, 90 have left since the pandemic. 90. 90 companies have left, but yeah, there's still some with prime spots at the mall that do quite well. And by doing quite well, mean they stay open. They're still open. A lot of people don't understand how powerful that center is for generating sales. McAvoy says, for the right vision, this could be an enormous opportunity. So we've got big companies still there. We've got power center generating sales. We've got the right vision. We've got opportunity. That is some real nonsense. Because as we speak, yesterday, as I'm reading this article, AT&T pulled out of Union Square. They pulled out of their flagship store in San Francisco. You've got company after company after company that are leaving. And I've podcasted all of the most recent ones because this is the story. It's like, all right, you go down this road. Here's what happens when you do that. And that's what we are reading. We are reading about terrible policy, and we're reading about terrible politicians and their decisions. And this is how you end up. And anything in close proximity, including the mall and this entire area, anything in this close proximity to the Tenderloin, if you haven't been following my podcast, there's an area very near this mall, the Westfield Mall, and near Union Square, which is kind of this big shopping center. Some of the primo shopping of San Francisco over the years, it's in close proximity to the Tenderloin, which is a massive, widely known open air drug market where just anything goes. And so then you've got all of these drug addicted felons, going to various areas of the city, stealing and committing crimes and, all of the stuff that goes with the ecosystem of the drug market. You've got that in close proximity to Westfield Mall and Union Square. So, it's gotten so bad that literally the owner of the mall is giving it back to their lenders. They no longer want a mall in one of what used to be one of the United States primo centers for shopping. They don't want it. They're just literally handing it back. Now, sometime down in the future, we're going to laugh when we talk about this because everything goes in cycles. It go up and down. And I am of the opinion that we haven't bottomed out yet. On that note, let's just keep going here. So, and McAvoy adds, there are 100,000 square foot users who haven't even entered the U.S. market. Well, imagine if they did and they ended up here near the Tenderloin. What would their impressions be? This is the U.S. This is what you get for this space. What in the world is going on? Now, you'd have somebody who come out and be doing a little research and development for a possible future site, and they'd go, not here. Let's get back. Let's get back in the Uber. Let's get the F out of here. This is terrible. There are uses that are non-traditional that could fill up a lot of space that could become interesting attractions. You don't need interesting attractions. You need safe streets where people are comfortable getting out of their car and going shopping. That's what you need. You need to not have zombies walking the streets. You need to not have zombies doing drugs and stealing and robbing people and robbing stores. You need to not have drug dealers just openly selling drugs in this area because this is what's making it go sideways. So there are non-traditional uses that could fill up a lot of space that could become interesting attractions. Yes, but that's not what the mall needs. The mall needs what it used to have, which was safety. Weird. So you don't need to work on converting the space to something different. You don't need to work on different non-traditional interesting attractions because what you're doing at that point in time is you are jerry-rigging and you're making excuses for something that should be done that should have never gotten out of hand. And that is basic public safety. You shouldn't have defunded the police. You shouldn't have made all drugs basically legal. And you shouldn't have made the activities of shoplifting and everything else that drug addicts are using to create their income streams to keep doing the drugs and live for free on taxpayers' backs. Shouldn't have made that all legal. And now you've got all these addicts running around and they're literally taking down shopping malls, shopping centers, businesses, just one after another, one after another. And it's gotten really bad since the pandemic. During the pandemic, you could blame the pandemic. Well, business is down, pandemic, I had to pull out that store, or we just had to, move that store. Now we're far enough past that where you can't blame that anymore. You might be able to say, well, our problems really started, but now it's truly just a safety issue, right? Was reading, just before I started this podcast, I was reading about some of the real reasons the Westfield Mall closed down. They had some massive safety concerns with employees being held up at knife point, not gun point, knife point, close proximity knife point. I mean, that's just horrible. You imagine going, how was your work today, honey? Not good. I got held up at knife point. Yeah. I mean, you're literally within, probably arm's reach of being stabbed. That's not a good day. In my worst day as an appraiser, real estate broker, podcaster, somebody might yell at me. Somebody might tell me I'm a terrible podcaster. Somebody might tell me I talk too much. It's what I do, right? But never do I have somebody hold up a knife to me. That's just a no-go. So I do not blame the mall for basically, going back to the lender. It's crazy, right? And so one of my other podcasts was things have gotten so bad that the mayor is looking for things to do with all the commercial space that sits empty. And one of the genius concepts was, let's turn it into lab space. Let's turn it into lab space. Like scientific lab. So many of you reach out to me. Hey, I'm a carpenter. There's no converting any of this space to other use. You got to basically demolish it and start over. And that's what I've said as an appraiser. You can't really convert things and have it pencil out. It's just financially and feasibly, it does not pencil. So unless you're getting property for less than the value of the dirt, which gives you that margin to make it go with a construction loan and then a takeout loan or whatever it is you're going to do. If you're going to use cash, good luck with that. We even had people say, hey, during the pandemic, we converted this shopping building or whatever it was, big building into a, COVID center. And they said without, basically having unlimited resources. And even then we were barely able to get a conversion done. You're taking it from one use to another. And if you know anything about construction, buildings are set up a certain way for a certain use. And when you monkey around with that, you got to change everything out. It's not like the cost to build new. That's cheap. Retrofitting something is, oftentimes 4 or 5 times more expensive than if you just started from scratch and built it the way it's meant to be. And you didn't have to go through all this jerry rigging of, all right, you got electrical there and you needed to run sewer there. And, you got to run your plumbing line there and your discharge line over there, all this stuff. We're going to take it from office space and going to make it residential. We're going to get all these interesting, non-traditional things to fill up the space. You don't need that. You just need good tenants back that have the ability to bring shoppers in who aren't afraid to navigate into the mall. That's what you need. You need to have people not pooping in the elevator. Straight up. An entire podcast about that on this YouTube channel. Pooping in the elevator. It's gone up exponentially because you got a bunch of people on drugs and they're trying to get into the mall, use the public restroom, and they don't quite make it. Don't make it. Oh, I guess I got to let her rip on the elevator. Terrible, right? And then to be held up at knife point. Yeah, that's a no-go. That's an occupational hazard right there, right? So, I mean, can you imagine what you could do with an entire city block in San Francisco? Said Laura Tinnetti. Has she been to an entire city block in the Tenderloin in San Francisco? Has she been there? Can you imagine what you can do with an entire city block in San Francisco? You mean run your whole store there and take up the whole block and have a whole block of exposure to all this fine examples of decrepit humanity? Yeah, I can imagine. And it's not good. It is not positive because you are assuming the street conditions have gotten better and they haven't. And that's why 2024, it's not happening. No, we're going downhill. San Fran is still going downhill. It has not hit rock bottom yet. Not even close, right? Not even close. So imagine, can you imagine can you reimagine and rethink what would happen with an entire city block with, some non-traditional uses that are interesting attractions? You don't need interesting attractions. You need businesses that sell a lot of stuff so that they can afford good rent in a good mall. Period. That's what you need. Instead, you got these nut jobs. Imagine it's going to be great. If the price of the basis point of the real estate gets to a point where an acquisition happens and the metrics are there, you can start really getting creative about what you can imagine for that mall. That is a true statement. That is 100% true. But you are talking about the price basically falling, just free falling to the point where you've got a real train wreck on your, way worse than what you've got now. And for that to happen, that means absolutely nothing is going to happen for, say, the next 5 years. You just let it just devolve into further cesspool. Let it get to that point. That's when you're at the basis point of the real estate where an acquisition happens and the metrics are there. You can really start getting creative. How about not get creative? How about clean the streets up and then just use the space as it was designed for? Because you already said it was in pretty good shape. Right? Exclusive of the poop in the elevator and, the riffraff outside and, the people holding employees up a knife. Besides that, besides half the mall being empty, besides that, it's pretty good. Others are a bit more cautious in their predictions and cheerleading, just a bit more cautious. As somebody is writing this article, literally, businesses are up and leaving this area in droves. And then you've got this guy because, you can't come right out and say, you know what, our policies suck, what. The vast majority of people in San Francisco have to go down this thought pattern of, it's not our policies. It's not our elected officials. It's just a big city. We got some big city crime problems and, drugs. A lot of cities have them. Yeah. What do they have for leadership? What do they have for city council? What do they have for mayors? What do they have for governors of their states? Is there a pattern there? I don't know. I'll have to get back to you, right? Others are more cautious in their predictions and cheerleading. Okay, let's hear it. I don't think we're in the upswing yet for San Francisco. All right. I'm right there with you, Vince Tabone, managing director of the real estate firm Green Street, speaking to the New York Times. I would say we probably haven't even reached bottom yet. That's what I've been saying. Because you can't have all of this stuff go on and then magically, we've turned the corner without some real reckoning going on. Now, Mayor London Breed of San Francisco is talking about some major reckoning. She quoted 38 arrests, drug offense arrests. And then one of the far left supervisors in the Seattle or the San Francisco council was like, you can't do that. It's putting people from the BIPOC community in jail. It's not fair. And she was like, no, here's what we're going to do. We're going to maybe do some arrests. And people are like, what? What do you mean? You can't do that. San Fran, we're not arresting people for drugs. Actually, you are. So you're going to have a ton of that before you start to clean up the streets. And the homeless, all the drug addicts in the tents, where are you going to put them? You're going to send them to treatment? You don't have the capacity for that. You're going to send them to jail? You're going to make homelessness illegal? A lot of people think that's what should be done. Make homelessness illegal. If you don't take the offer of housing in shelter, what you're doing is illegal. You are squatting on city property. You're squatting on private property. You can't do that. It's just no go. A lot of folks think that's probably not a bad way to go. Can you enforce it? That's the issue. So you've made it illegal. All right. So you're going to give somebody who has no money a fine. They're not going to pay. You're going to throw them in jail. All right. The thing you need to work on is these are addicts. So you got to get them into treatment. You're not going to be doing that either because you can't force people into treatment. So 2024, how is this stuff magically just that's pie in the sky thinking, right? I hope that this happens. Therefore, I'm going to say it happens. Yeah. Yeah. I would really hope for this, and this to happen. And that's what that is. It's just hope, right? So this guy is like, I would probably say we haven't even reached bottom yet. We're not even there. And regarding the Westfield Center property, John Kumblick, CEO of Walnut Creek-based firm John Kumblick and Associates, tells the Business Times, the only buyer class or profile that I would identify with an asset like this would be a grave dancer. Ooh, shots fired. Dancing on some graves, because that's what it is. Dead. Dead man walking, right? Somebody who's willing to pick up the pieces of a complete shipwreck at a huge discount. That's totally true. And we haven't discounted this space enough to get there yet. Not there yet. Not there yet. Now, is it happening in San Francisco? Yes. There are some foreclosures of some very big buildings. Are developers giving properties back? Yes, that is happening right now as we speak. Now, other areas of San Francisco, not right butted up to the Tenderloin, are doing okay. Some of them are doing pretty well. We're reasonable here. So you're going to pick up we're going to identify the pieces that are going okay. And there are parts of San Fran, the homelessness and the drugs has been throughout the city, but there are certain areas where you've got it concentrated much more. The Tenderloin, and where we're talking about the Westfield Mall and Union Square, that is all within close proximity to what is a wildly out of control open air drug market that everybody is aware of, including the mayor. And that's why mayor is arguing with, nut job, left wing socialist supervisors. What are they supervising, by the way? People pooping in the elevator at the mall? Want to supervise that? Eesh, no thanks. Did you wipe? Ugh, it's gross. The Times points to troubled times for other downtown malls around the country, including Chicago's Water Tower Place. Huh. What's leadership like in Chicago? Interesting. What kind of mayor did the voters in Chicago just elect? Was it the guy who was backed by the police, or was it the guy backed by education who's a progressive and will just lead Chicago into, worse times? Yeah. No, they didn't vote for the good guy. They voted for the knucklehead. Where the stores are vacant and there is still a big abandoned anchor space that used to be a Macy's. Talking about Chicago. All right. Yeah, that's another prime example of leadership and decisions that have gone wildly sideways. Let's not arrest anybody for shoplifting. It'll be fine. All of a sudden, there's no more Walmarts in Chicago. Oh, hey now, what happened? We did all those podcasts right here, didn't we? Yeah. Hey, we've got merch. We got merch on the channel. Should be in the description. We've got Seattle Real Estate Podcast mugs. A ton of people have asked me about those. We're selling some funny stuff. I mean, we're just putting stuff out that I think you guys will enjoy. It's not meant to be anything serious. If you like it, great. If not, it's there. So we're working on that. And Tabone's firm Green Street tells the Times that since 2016, malls in the United States have lost 50% of their value. Well, there's this whole retail apocalypse going on because people are shopping more and more online. But there are malls. We've got Bellevue Square here in Bellevue. It is on fire. It is expensive. And you've got more and more stores coming in there because people are safe. They can comfortably shop. There's an amazing demographic of shoppers that want to shop there. So even while you've got malls losing 50% of their value, my mall here in Bellevue, it's going ham. It's putting up 3 towers in a parking lot that are just going to be these skyscrapers, right? Because you got a city that has its public safety under control and people feel comfortable coming all the way from Canada to shop here. So yes, there are malls in the US that are absolutely tanking. And there's another mall here in Bellevue that is it's not as solid as Bell Square. It's just, it has a tough time getting a good solid anchor tenant. And it's sketchy. It's a little bit sketchy, not from a public safety standpoint, but it's like, all right, so we got half price books. We've got the pet store. We've got Michael's arts and crafts, just some real second tier stuff. And they're having a tough time. They're just having a tough time. Restaurants kind of go in and out of it. Doesn't work all that great. So some malls work great, others don't. It has to do with demographics, purchasing power, and the businesses that want to run their retail in those areas. When will things look lively again downtown is the next big question. It's going to be at least a year before a lot of the currently vacant properties find tenants. At least a year. That is optimal at best. At best, because in the meantime, you're still going to have a whole bunch of businesses leave because the street conditions are terrible. And by that, I don't mean the asphalt or the concrete, right? I mean buyers' perceptions of getting out of their car in the parking lot, looking around, going, okay, what do we got going on here? Or even getting up to the mall. Hey, there's a lot of people homeless here. There's a lot of drug dealers running around. Shenanigans happening. That's, people being held up at knife point in the mall. A lot of shoplifting going on. So people don't want to be around that, right? They can go on Amazon and do that. And they do. Or they'll go to a mall that they know is in better shape. That is just, there's less likelihood I'm going to get held up here. The article continues, the city's effort to create some activities and pop-up attractions downtown may or may not pan out, but that doesn't get going until the fall. Okay, let's talk about pop-up attractions. You need good, strong tenants, not pop-up attractions. Pop-up attractions are small little businesses that can use the space, that can fill up a storefront. But the reason they're there is that they're small. They can set up shop just super quick and they don't have to do a long-term commitment. Maybe it's month to month, something like that. But that's not a long-term solution. That is, again, jerry-rigging a situation that never had to be, but is because you went down all these terrible political ideology routes like, drugs are good. Let's let everybody have as many as they want and it'll all be good. We'll decriminalize possession and basically the sale of said drugs. And then we're going to decriminalize anything to do with shoplifting or anything you can make money to buy those drugs. And we're just going to go down these roads. And they did. And here you are. Pop-ups ain't going to do it. Just not even close. You need to make the city safe again. You need to reduce crime. You need to reduce homelessness. These are not hard concepts to figure out. And until you do that, no amount of pop-ups in the world are going to help them all out. Just not happening. That's such a misnomer. That is wishful thinking by people who've never run a business, period. That's what that is. Maybe if we put a pop-up in there, it'll all be good. We'll just have pop-ups for days. People are dumb. Some experts tell the Chronicle this week that in the case of the Westfield, one scenario we may see is that empty spaces in the mall get leased up very quickly, with the receiver providing incentives to tenants in the hope of having a more attractive property for resale in 6, 8, or 12 months. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? In the case of the Westfield, receiver providing incentives to tenants. Who's going to want to go in there? You literally, as we speak, we've got AT&T pulling out their flagship store in San Fran from this area. So why would other businesses go, oh, okay, well, let's see. Nordstrom left, the Nordstrom Rack left, Saks Fifth Avenue, Anthropology, a bunch of Gap-related stores. Whole Foods left after a year and 568 911 calls. The list, AT&T, T-Mobile, they've all left. And so you're some small undercapitalized business. You haven't been around for that long and you're looking for some great space. You found it, my friend. The problem is that you're going to inherit all of their problems that they no longer wanted. All of these, top tier retailers and businesses throughout the United States. You're going to inherit the problems that they just moved away from. What's that going to look like? So that they can have a more attractive property for resale in 6, 8, or 12 months? Yeah, no, wrong. I'm sorry. That's just flat. That's wrong. But no doubt, as the Times says, there is significant pain ahead for much of the downtown, and any recovery is going to be slow. All right. So we pretty much tore apart the fact that there's going to be any recovery. I mean, you're going to have to go through the pain like we're talking about here, and it's going to be significant. And, you start arresting people are going to look at the demographics of who's being arrested. It's not going to be pretty. It's not going to be pretty. Ooh. There's going to be a day of reckoning. Mayor Breed, you seem to be having a pattern of arresting folks here. What are we doing? We're putting people in jail here. People's freedoms are at stake. Convicted felons' freedoms are at stake, and you're arresting them and putting them in jail, sometimes prison? What is going on? What has happened to San Francisco? What about compassion for our fellow human being? Anybody who steps up in San Fran is going to have to deal with that type of ridiculousness, right? So anytime soon, a recovery? I don't think so. Same thing in Portland. Exact same thing in Portland. But I think pound for pound, Portland's problems are worse. Seattle's got some major issues too. We've got an all-star Major League Baseball game coming up. Got the all-star weekend in Seattle. Hope they're able to sweep all those drug addicts from the streets downtown, that kind of hang out there. I hope they're able to sweep them under the rug somewhere. Otherwise, it's not going to look good. Yeah, Seattle was good, except for, all the craziness. Now, our mayor here in Seattle, giving him credit, he's been very aggressive at doing sweeps of the homeless encampments and basically pushing people out of downtown. But, we had a pretty wild murder you can read about on, last Tuesday? This past week? You've got some major issues going on, and it was a drug addict and known convicted felon from Illinois came here and just point blank range ran up, shot this woman who was pregnant 8 months, at point blank, killed her and shot her husband, and baby is delivered and baby died. The dad got to hold the baby for just a little bit. You got stories like that going on, totally unprovoked. Somebody coming to Seattle for the drug lifestyle, I'm sure, and just whacked out of their mind on some kind of drugs, and claims that the reason he ran up to this car that was going to their restaurant that they owned, that they're running, claimed the gunman claimed, the convicted felon claimed that they were coming after him with the gun. There's nothing like that. It's all in his head. He's whacked out. Yeah, you have enough incidences like that of tourists coming to town. You're not going to have many conventions wanting to come to, that type of thing. And that is what has happened. Businesses don't want to be around that. It's a no-go. It's a hard no-go. Poop in the elevator, hard no-go. Having employees held up at knife point, hard no-go. I mean, you just don't, this is common sense stuff. So when these folks say, it might turn around in 6 months, just a quick 6 months, that's where I'm kind of like, are you kidding me? Really? Which reality do you live in? Because the problems that these cities have, it's going to take a long time to fix, if ever, right? If ever. It's kind of like everybody on News for Reasonable People. Enjoy the decline. I mean, and I say personally, I got podcasts for days because every time somebody shuts down a business that's significant, I podcast it now. And guess what? People are like, yep, all right, there's one more. So this spin that these real estate folks have, it's wishful thinking at best. But think about it from their standpoint. You eat what you kill. That's your job. 100% commission. If you don't sell anything, nothing's going on. So you got to keep that spin going. And that's where this narrative comes up. Nothing wrong here. Nothing to see here. Don't worry about it. It's all good. Lease this space out. It's fine. Oh, you're from out of town? Oh, good. All right. Well, we've got this quiet little neighbor. I mean, it's mostly quiet. Little neighborhood called the Tenderloin. And, it's a lot of opportunity. There's a lot of space. Unlike the rest of the town, there's a lot of open space here. I mean, you could basically choose whatever you wanted here and we'll cut you a deal. Give you a break. You can really get the foothold in San Francisco that your company has been envisioning. Now, where that might actually fly is if, some actual arrests are made, some people are thrown in jail, and start to go down this road of things getting a little bit better. All right, somebody jumps in on the front end of that, willing to take a flyer. That makes sense. And the guys that buy buildings, guys and gals who buy buildings at that point, those guys make a killing because the valuations are already, like we're talking grave dancer here, right? Dancing on graves. Yeah, I get a great deal. This is sweet. Somebody will make some incredible money after, through this run. So those who can kind of filter through and figure out where you are in the cycle, commercial cycle here in San Fran or Portland, because Portland's got some of the same things. Seattle, our businesses, there's a small little area, a couple of small areas where businesses have left, but it's not as significant as Portland's demise or San Fran's demise. San Fran, the issue here is that your Tenderloin is a pretty big area. And so it's impacting a lot of different things, businesses. Whereas in Portland, you've got general train wreck. In Seattle, you've got these smaller areas that are horrible, that are terrible. I mean, close to the Blade where the murder happened, the lady that's pregnant, her husband got to hold the baby for just a little bit and then the baby dies. I mean, just like, oh, can you imagine? Yeah, terrible, awful, horrible. People tend to avoid those types of situations. And then those situations here in Seattle, we just swept that one under the rug. Don't talk about that. That's terrible. It's not good for the economy. It's not good for our reputation. Yeah, come to Seattle. Good times. And these people are literally a few blocks away from their business. And this is their home. It's what they're doing. Member of the community. Just terrible. But, these real estate folks, they got to spin. They got to do their job. Yeah, it's an ugly one, but it's got to be done. Now, typically what happens is you're dealing with smaller companies that want some, amazing space for a real discount that are willing to put up with nonsense. So inherently throughout the next portion of the cycle in San Fran, you're not dealing with top tier tenants. They want nothing to do with this scenario. They are going the other way. AT&T is leaving. All those other stores that I mentioned that you know of, that you've heard of, they're leaving. They're going the other way because public safety is not where they want it to be. And there's responsibility by businesses choosing where they do, operate. And it's on them. If the headline pops up and 3 people murdered at the Gap, it's not good. That's not the right direction to go in. So my prediction is, it's not happening in 2024. How about that? How about that for a solid prediction? You might have some small changes. You might get a little bit of activity going in the right direction. And I think you will see that. You will start to see some of that. But the actual effects, it's going to take something pretty major. It's going to take a major, change of not only political will, but political leadership, attitude towards police, attitude towards drugs, attitudes towards homelessness, attitude towards crime. I don't see that happening, changing overnight. It didn't get here. It didn't become a shipwreck or a train wreck overnight. And it's certainly not going to be changed in the next 6 months, like this article alludes to. Literally, retail experts predict downtown and Westfield Mall recovery may be in 2024. What part of my podcast here indicated it's a high probability that it's going to be 2024? Even the article itself basically states, it's going to be slow and it's going to be problematic. Yeah. And by slow, you mean non-existent, and problematic, overwhelming. And you're still going to have businesses leave. That's what you got going on. All right. That's it for me. Sorry, Westfield Mall. Ain't happening in 2024. Okay. Thanks for being here. Hey, we got a line of merch. We're doing some merch. We're doing some cool stuff. What do we got? How about this one? How about this one? You can read it on the back while I'm reading whatever. Buy a man, eat fish the day, teach man to a lifetime. Fearless Joe Biden. We got that kind of stuff on our site. I mean, that's just great. Buy a man, eat fish the day, teach man to a lifetime. I mean, those are words to live by. I don't really know, who's going to live by those, but I mean, that's what our fearless president said. That's who some folks in this country elected as president and are trying to maybe do it for another 4. Yeah, that guy. Interesting. Thanks so much for being here. I will catch up with you in the next one. Bye for now.